researched quite a few. However, this case will leave you feeling powerless and hopeless in the justice system. So let's get started with today's case that takes place, and I'm looking at my notes under the camera, so you get to look at all the imperfections in my eyeliner. Yeah, it kind of bothered me. It's bothering me. Anyways, today's case took place in the Ozark Mountains in Missouri. Wonderful place, I've heard. Although all I've seen is the Ozarks on Netflix. That it's more about drugs and cartels and money laundering, so maybe not the best idea of the place. But it is beautiful, it is green, it is lush, it is scenic. At least on Netflix they paint it that way, although Netflix has that thing for sometimes over exaggerating. If you've been to the Missouri mountains, if you live there, you should let me know. Now at the time, Lena was 20 years old, and I'm gonna start from the end and then slowly go towards the details of the beginning, if you know what I mean. It all started with Lena was 20 years old and she was living with her boyfriend Jason, who she was thinking, or they were planning to get married. On Valentine's Day, specifically of 2006, her sister Robin, Lena's sister Robin, stops by to say hi to her sister, but she only found Jason in the apartment. When she asks about Lena, he says, well, she left with a guy and moved to Florida. Robin is super confused. She doesn't understand how come you're saying that to me, and where did this guy came from that I had no idea existed. But he said that their mom, Lena and Robin's mom, told him that she left with a guy. When Robin goes through her stuff, she realizes that everything is there. Her clothes, her pictures, everything. Where was she gonna go with nothing? She knew that something was wrong, and the first thing that came to mind was my mom had something to do with it. They reported Lena missing, and the sisters knew that Lena did not move to Florida. Lena had a son, and if leaving everything behind would have been weird, leaving her son would have been even weirder. So that's when they start to dig a little bit into the darkness of this family. March of 1999. Gary kind of saw it coming when he got arrested for Sandy writing bad checks in his name. At that point, he filed for a divorce. He then goes missing on May 11, 1999. He didn't show up for his morning chores, and if you knew Gary, you know that he was either dying in the hospital or dead, because that's not the kind of thing he would miss. But before he went missing, Gary took this gun to a friend. I don't remember if it was a friend or to his brother. I can't really remember, but he takes it to somebody and says, please keep it for me, because I'm afraid Sandy is gonna use it on me. Something that happens while he's dropping off that gun. He says, well, the person that is going to keep the gun says, well, it is loaded, but it has like a defective bullet. I don't know. I don't know about guns, but and so Gary looks at the gun and says, no, that's not possible. She put it against my stomach and pulled the trigger, and I knew it was empty. And then I empty it before putting it away. And that's when he realized that Sandy actually did that while it had a bullet inside. I mean, he didn't die at that time, but let's hear the rest of the story. He was reported missing on May 13th, 1999, when they reported it to the police. The police at that point goes to Gary's house, but nobody was home. They found a random cow wandering out of the pasture, so the sheriff decides to put it back. And at that point, Sandy and Lena pulled up the driveway. Sandy tells the sheriff that she's been meaning to call because her husband left a few days back to go get some roosters, fighting roosters, something like that, she said, and she hasn't returned. He hasn't returned. The sheriff asked, do you want to file a missing person report? And she said something along the lines of, I guess. Okay. The police got a search warrant of the place and went back. They noticed that inside the house, Gary's stuff was nowhere to be found. Like he didn't live there. He had no clothes, no shoes, nothing that belonged to him or personal belongings. The house belonged to him. But they also found a checkbook in Christopher Klemp's name. Christopher, the younger guy she was seeing. And that they kind of got the idea that Sandy was dating or seeing Chris. And guess what happened? Chris moved in with Sandy a few days later. I mean, nothing suspicious, right? Not at is what really happened according to the girls. However, they never told the police this as they were little girls. They said that they got home from school and Sandy waited for them at the door and said, "Girls, a cat had kittens in the field. Go look for them." The girls went, but Brandy had to milk the cow, so she needed to get inside the house. So she went in and saw her mom on her hands and knees, scrubbing the floors with bleach. That night, she talked to the girls and said, "If anybody asks about Gary, you tell them he went to go buy fighting roosters and that you had spaghetti for dinner that night. And of course, that you haven't seen him since." But that night, that's what Sandy told the girls to say when they were going to be interviewed by the police. But that night, Sandy asked Lena to keep a watch on the girls, and when Robin looked out the window, kind of being inside her room, locked in by Lena, she saw her mom, Sandy, and Chris carrying something very heavy. She knew it was Gary. She saw his boots. Lena said, "You can't say anything. They're going to take us to foster care, and they're all going to separate us." After Gary went missing in May, they moved to St. Louis, where they got married, Chris and Sandy. They stayed there for over a year, and then they moved to Sligo, can't remember how it was pronounced. In August of 2000, Lena was working a couple of jobs. She was more distant, and she started drinking and doing drugs, lost herself for a while, and was kind of trying to deal with the fact that she had a terrible childhood and everything that she witnessed. Later on, she trusts this boyfriend, tells him everything that happens or that happened, and the boyfriend said, "Well, you don't have to go to the police, but go talk to Albert, the guy that raised you, and he was so nice to you guys." So she told Albert about it. They set up this meeting. Lena was 17 years old at the time. He bought a new recorder and he recorded the whole conversation. At one point, he asked, "Who killed my brother?" And Lena said, "My mom." He was sitting on the couch eating scrambled eggs, and Sandy walked in and shot him 3 times in the head. She said that later, Sandy put him inside of a plastic or a tarp kind of thing and dragged him to the bedroom where she locked the door. And then she proceeded to tell what happened when the girls got home and they were sent to go find the kittens in the field. Then they said that she put him in a truck and left. She also said that I swear there are random noises when I am completely alone in this huge place. Sorry. She said that there was nothing left of him because Sandy burned his body and dropped it in different areas. I don't even know what areas those were. She said that she felt terrible, but she couldn't take it anymore. Her mom was making her basically do all this stuff, and Albert never blamed it on her. He understood that she was doing just what her mom was telling her. Albert took this tape to the police, but soon enough Sandy got a lawyer Brandy freaked out and she got into a huge argument with her mom. Sandy said, "You know what? Jump in the truck. We're gonna go for a ride." Lena goes into the bed of the truck. So not inside the truck, but in the bed of the truck. And Sandy and Chris were in the cab area. Brandy said that they drove until it was super, super dark. And if you've ever lived or live in the country, you know that it is super dark and this beautiful, I am looking at beautiful trees in front of me that are letting the light through. You know, it's such a beautiful sight. But at night, I wouldn't walk under those trees, even if you paid me $1 million. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff luring in the darkness, and this tiny county roads are just dark. And the light of your truck or your vehicle, it's everything that you'll be able to see. So it got scary for Brandy. I don't blame her. She was still young, and she said that they stopped at one point in this very dark spot. Chris gets a gun, points it to her head. She jumps out of the bed, gets in front of the truck, trying to, have her mom help her. Sandy looks the other way, and then at that point she thought, well, I'm gonna get close to my mom so he doesn't shoot me. She asked her mom to please, just hug her mom and said, please don't let him hurt me. And Sandy said something along the lines of, don't hurt my baby. They drove back to the house, and after that, Brandy learned her lesson and never brought it up again. But then Lena got pregnant with a baby boy who she gave birth to on November 3rd, 2003. His name is Coulter. He's such a cute baby. Well, he's not a baby anymore, but he's super cute. I saw some recent pictures, the most recent ones you can find online. Everything changed. Lena now, she wanted to go work and provide for him, start a family, and Grandma Sandy, evil Sandy, if you ask me, was babysitting this kid, her grandson, Coulter, while Lena was at work. By 2006, Lena is in a serious relationship and thinking about getting married. Remember, she was living with this guy, Jason. She was working, she was independent, she didn't need her mom anymore. She wasn't close to her mom anymore. And at that point, Albert's family decides to do something because they know that they don't have enough for a criminal investigation. So they find a civil case for wrongful death. Gary's family wanted justice in whatever way they could get it. And they knew that Lena was going to be accessory for murder, but in the murder of Gary. But they were hoping that if Lena would confess, that she would get immunity. They summoned Sandy and Chris, but they couldn't find Lena. So where is she? We go back at the beginning of the video. Remember, her sister Robin went to... See, I swear. Random noises. So, Robin goes to see her sister Lena. Lena is not there. Jason says she moved to Florida with this guy. Oh, sorry. According to her mom. To your mom, too. So, they call Albert and say, well, she is missing. We know she didn't leave to go to Florida. Everything is there. Her son is here. Robin even told the police that she was afraid that her mom, Sandy, would have had something to do with Lena's disappearance. And as Robin and Brandy were putting up flyers looking for Lena. The younger sisters, their own sisters, were paid $5 per flyer that they would take down, which makes Sandy look a little bit more suspicious, if you ask me. It was very convenient for Sandy that Lena moved away. Number one, there was that lawsuit, and they knew that she was going to say something and was going to confess. Number two, she loved Coulter, her grandson, and she always wanted a boy. She believed that Coulter was her own son. Delirious, I know. And so she even filed abandonment charges, and Lena never showed up in court because she was missing. So she got Coulter. In July of 2013, Judge Carr Woods heard the wrongful death lawsuit against Sandy and Chris. Lena's confession tape was not admissible in court, but the girls did take the stand. Brandy gave details how her mom and Chris pulled a gun on her in that county road. The verdict, well, they were found liable and were ordered to pay $7 million to his daughters. And this is Gary's daughters, I'm assuming from a previous relationship. They never got a penny, in case you were wondering. Sandy and Chris ended up getting a divorce in 2014, so a year after the verdict. Sandy, guess what? She remarried, and she has still custody of Coulter. Sandy and Chris had 2 properties, and Brandy and Robin have been going through those 2 properties with the permission of the new owners, and they found a few inconsistencies that were strange enough for the police to go through, do that kind of what is it? There's some kind of radar that kind of looks in the dirt to see if there is some kind of something that shouldn't be there, you know. If something was dug there and but nothing came out of that. In one of the properties, they thought that Lena might be buried under there's 4 trees on a hill. The mom mentioned something about burying a dog there. Lena was not there. In the other property, they found that the hand dug well that they had was completely filled in, and it disappeared, and now they had grass on top of it, which was a little bit weird, but I'm assuming that nothing came out of that. They kept using this scan tool to check some kind of traces of disturbed soil in order to see if they have to dig or not. Now, after all this happened, some new information was shared on Reddit, and I want to share it with you because I think it's kind of relevant. Sandy went to, after everything that happened, Lena's apartment, and probably when Jason moved out, didn't have to be at the time that Jason was still there, but they replaced the carpet, and it was later on disclosed that they found blood in Lena's apartment carpet. It was kind of deep in the wood and the pad, but you couldn't see that much on the carpet. And oddly enough, soon after, the building burned to the ground. Is this something that Sandy did? Well, I don't know if she burned that to the ground. Is it possible? At this point, anything is possible, I think. But that's all we know about this case. And it kind of bothers me just to think that is this really how it works? Is it? You tell me. Are there more cases like this in this world that I'm not aware of? Because you think that with the piling amount of evidence and witnesses that are willing to confess, and now, is it because Lena was the only one who was there when Albert's body, when her mom killed Gary? Or isn't it enough that Robin saw when they were carrying him out and saw the boots and everything? Isn't that enough? I mean, they don't have the bodies, so they don't have a case. I wonder, what are we going to do with this kind of cases? Because I know of cases that their bodies never show up, Yet there's somebody that goes to jail for that. And there's enough evidence to send them to jail. But isn't there enough evidence in this case to put this woman away? I want to know what you think, because at this point I am trying to look at it from a different perspective that I don't see. So please take the time to leave a comment and tell me what you think about this case. It just baffles me. I try to think on different scenarios of why these things cannot be admissible, but to think that there's this woman who has been getting away with illegal activity for the longest time, and she continues to live her life like nothing happened. It just bothers me to the next level. I don't know how relaxing this video was, because to be honest, I was more upset at this than anything else. But I thought I'd share with you guys in our closer community here on Patreon, because I truly want to see it from another perspective, because the one that I have, it's bothering me every time I think about it. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate the support. I broke my beads and I bought this real cheap, I think I got them at Dollar Tree, earphones. Quality is terrible, but I can hear myself, so that's good enough. But they keep getting out. Yeah, you know what I mean. Thanks for being here, guys. I appreciate your support. And if you're new, please go back to my video gallery so you can check out other cases